Player 2 joined Arav had always found comfort in routine. After long, stressful hours at his IT job, the gaming zone across the street offered him a nostalgic kind of peace. The flashing lights, the faint smell of plastic and soda, the familiar beeps and background music, it reminded him of a simpler time, a version of childhood that never completely left him. Every evening around 8 p.m., without fail, he'd walk in, nod to the sleepy manager slouched behind the front counter, and make his way to the back where his favorite retro game cabinets sat untouched by the newer crowd. He liked the classics, the ones that required skill and memory, not just bright colors and in-game purchases. That Thursday evening felt no different. The skies were cloudy, the wind carried a cold bite, and Arav had left work slightly more exhausted than usual. He entered the zone with a heavy exhale and moved past a group of teens huddled around a VR machine. Something about their laughter made him miss being a kid even more. He walked to the corner cabinet, the co-op zombie shooter, Dead Time Duo. It hadn't been updated in decades. The screen was slightly cracked, and one of the joystick buttons on Player 2's side was duct-taped, but Arav didn't mind. It was his little sanctuary. He popped in a token. The game flickered to life, the speakers crackling as the title screen rolled in. Thunder sounded outside just as the screen flashed, "Insert coin to start." He sat on the Player 1 side, gripping the slightly sticky controller. The game began with a static-laced loading screen, and he smirked to himself. Despite its age, the game still had charm, but something was off. A message popped up on the screen that he had never seen before. Player 2 joined. Arav blinked. He instinctively turned his head to the right. The second seat was empty. He chuckled nervously. Must be a bug. But then, Player 2's character, the grizzled veteran in a red bandana moved perfectly. They weren't just moving. Whoever was on the other side was good. Very good. Headshots, sidesteps, strategic grenade throws. The kind of moves Arav struggled to pull off even after weeks of practice. He watched, puzzled, as the screen filled with bloody zombie mayhem. The other character saved him multiple times without hesitation. He spoke without thinking. Who's playing? No answer, only the hum of the arcade machines. But then something caught his eye. In the reflection of the cracked screen, just for a moment. Saw a figure sitting beside him, pale skin, blue lips, wide, unblinking eyes staring forward. Arav whipped, his head to the right. Nothing. The seat was still empty, but the joystick moved. He felt a coldness wrap around his spine like an invisible hand. The hairs on his arms stood up. His mouth was dry. He could hear his own heartbeat. He swallowed hard. This isn't funny. Who's there? The screen flickered. FZZ. The voice that came through the speakers was distorted and layered, like whispers in a tunnel. Player 2 died in 2003. You took his seat. The arcade lights dimmed. The laughter from the other side of the room vanished. Even the distant thumping bass of the VR game seemed to cut out. Everything went still. Arav tried to stand, but the controller in his hand wouldn't let go. It was as if something had clamped down on it. He yanked harder. Nothing. His breathing quickened. The screen went black. Then, from the darkness, a photograph faded in. A grainy image. 2 kids playing Dead Time Duo. One of them was him years ago. The other boy beside him had the same face as the one he just saw in the reflection. What the hell? More images followed. Schoolyard photos. Birthday parties. A funeral. A headstone. Rohan Malhotra, 1994 to 2003. Forever Player 2, his childhood friend. The one who died in a tragic house fire. Arav had buried that memory so deep, he barely recalled it. They used to play here. Dead Time Duo was their game, Arav's breath hitched. He stared at the screen as tears welled in his eyes. Rohan. The voice came again, one last game. Arav stopped struggling. The game restarted. This time he played like he used to. Muscle memory kicked in. Every zombie he shot felt like a familiar move. Rohan, ghost or not, was watching his back like always. The two characters moved through the levels flawlessly. It felt right. Natural. Bittersweet. As they reached the final boss, the screen glitched again. The boss faded out. In its place stood a burning room. Flames licked the walls. It was Rohan's bedroom. Arav's hands trembled. "I'm sorry I left you," he whispered. The voice, soft now, replied, "You didn't. You forgot me." A blinding flash of light, then darkness. The next morning, the manager unlocked the arcade doors. He noticed something odd. One of the oldest cabinets, Dead Time Duo, was switched off, despite no one ever turning it off manually. Beside the machine was a half-finished soda. No sign of a YARAV. No login at work. No calls answered. Police were called. Posters put up. Security footage reviewed. The footage showed him walking in, sitting down, playing, but from the moment the game screen flickered, he just vanished. Arcade moved the game into storage. But on nights when the wind howled, the screen would blink back to life, and every so often, in old static green letters, it would read, "Waiting for player 1. The VR that knew Mekavia had always loved horror. She was the type to watch ghost stories late at night, challenge herself with survival games, and walk alone through dark corridors in real life, just to see if she could handle the fear. But when she heard about Mind Maze, she hesitated. It was the newest virtual reality lounge in the city, located at the top floor of a sleek mirror-covered building. Its ads screamed things like, "You won't just play. You'll live it. Face your fears no matter how real." The reviews were raving. People said the realism was beyond anything ever created. Some even left half-joking comments like, "I came out crying. I couldn't sleep for 2 days." Or, "How did they recreate my childhood bedroom?" Kavia's curiosity got the better of her. She booked a solo session on a rainy Friday night. Perfect atmosphere, she thought. She arrived at Mind Maze around 9 p.m. The receptionist was quiet, almost robotic. No greetings, just a clipboard and a signature. "You'll be in pod 6, he said without looking up. She was escorted into a dark hallway, lit by glowing blue strips. At the end was a room the size of a walk-in closet, containing a reclining chair with cables sprouting from its back and a sleek black VR headset that pulsed with a soft red light. Kavya sat down slowly, her heart already beating faster. "What's the game called?" she asked. The assistant smiled vaguely. "It's untitled. It creates itself based on your mind." Before she could reply, the headset lowered itself onto her face. Total darkness. Then clicked. Her eyes opened inside the simulation. She gasped. It was her apartment. Exactly. The scuffed blue couch, the chipped bookshelf, the tiny potted plant dying by the window, even the faint ring on the table from the coffee cup she'd left this morning. "What the hell?" she whispered. She pulled off the headset, or tried to. Her hands moved, but the headset remained. Her fingers passed through it like smoke. Panic bloomed. She stood up, turned in circles. Everything around her was so precise. Too precise. The kind of precision no gaming engine could create. She ran to the front door. Locked. She pounded on it, screamed. "Hey, this isn't funny," she cried. Her voice echoed in a strange, muted way, as if the air were too thick to carry sound properly. Then she saw it, a shadow under her bedroom door. Feet. Someone was in there. She crept forward, breath shallow. Slowly, she turned the knob. Empty room, but her bed sheets were ruffled, like someone had just gotten up. Her mirror was fogged, like someone had just breathed on it. The closet door creaked open by itself. Kavya backed away, heart hammering. A voice whispered from nowhere, low and echoing, "This isn't a simulation. This is where we keep the curious ones. She fell to her knees, clutching her ears. No, no, no. Let me out. She tried to break the window, only to find it was painted onto the wall. The glass didn't exist. She turned to the TV. It flicked on by itself. Footage rolled out of her, sitting in the real lounge, inside Pod 6. Her head tilted back. Eyes open, unmoving. You're showing me a video? She cried. I know I'm not really dead. This is just part of the game. The voice came again. No, you are not dead. Not entirely. Not yet. She grabbed the remote and hurled it at the screen. It shattered. Glass flew everywhere, but nothing hurt. Not even the shards that sliced through her arms. No blood, no pain. She looked down. Her body flickered. Static danced across her skin. No, 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 no. What's happening to me? She stared into the mirror. Her face was fading, slowly erasing like a faulty hologram. Outside. A week passed. Pod 6 was shut down temporarily. The staff claimed the headset glitched, but they kept her body hooked up, alive only through artificial means. Brainwaves still firing, but no response. Eventually, the owner of Mind Maze approved a reset. Cavia's session was wiped. The headset cleared. They put out a new ad. VR session slots now open. Limited availability. 1 seat left. And a teenage boy signed up. He smiled as he sat in Pod 6. Curious, too curious, somewhere in a perfect replica of his home. The boy opened his eyes and said, "Cool. It even got my posters right." Behind the door, something breathed, and the voice whispered, "Welcome home." High score equals death. Joseph had always felt most alive in places that others forgot. The arcade at the edge of Old Market Street was a place like that, tucked behind a row of rusting shuttered shops, its neon sign barely flickering in the dusk. While other kids crowded the modern VR zones downtown, Joseph preferred this crumbling corner of nostalgia. The machines here were relics, dusty, slow, temperamental, but they had heart. And secrets. That's where he first saw the game. It didn't even have a proper name, just the faded outline of characters across the marquee, barely lit in sickly green neon. S1L3NC3. No one else touched it. The buttons were too stiff. The screen occasionally flickered to black. The joystick moved like it was jammed in mud. But Joseph felt drawn to it. The first time he played, he noticed something odd. Unlike any other game, this one had no tutorial. No leaves, no timer. Just a single rule, printed faintly beneath the screen in scratched letters. Reach 999,999. Break the silence. The gameplay was simple, almost too simple. You were a lone figure moving through an empty void, dodging shadowy shapes and chasing glowing orbs. Each orb gave you points. The shapes whispered as they passed, their words unintelligible, but cold. Joseph played for hours that first day. It wasn't fun in the traditional sense, it was hypnotic. The rhythm of the movements, the dim hum from the speakers, the way the void seemed to stretch farther the longer he played. He went home late that night, headache pounding, vision slightly blurred. He dreamed of the void, of orbs, of voices he couldn't understand. He came back the next day, and the next, and the next. He began skipping meals. His friends noticed him becoming quieter, paler. One even joked, "You're starting to look like the ghost you're chasing in that creepy game." But Joseph couldn't stop. Every time he played, he got a little better, a little closer to the score. By the fourth week, he was staying at the arcade until closing. The staff didn't seem to care. They rarely looked in his direction. The machine was always on when he arrived, already humming, like it was waiting for him. He began hearing the voices outside of the game, in mirrors, in dreams, even in silence, whispering things that faded as soon as he tried to listen. But they made one thing clear: finish it. He didn't know why he wanted to. The prize wasn't money, wasn't even fame. No one else cared about the high score. But it was like the number 999,999 was etched into the back of his eyes. His hands shook constantly now. He slept maybe 2 hours a night. When he wasn't playing, he felt wrong, like his body was a size too small for his soul. He stopped replying to texts. His mother left dinner on the table, untouched. The night he reached the score, the arcade was emptier than usual. Just the hum of machines and the buzzing of a dying ceiling light. He played like he was possessed. Every move perfect. Every orb absorbed without hesitation. The shadow shapes didn't whisper tonight. They screamed, but Joseph didn't stop. The final orb floated down slowly. Bright, blinding, a crown of pure white. When he touched it, the screen exploded in light. 999,999. Everything went black. The arcade lights dimmed. Every machine flickered off, except S1, L3, and C3. The screen changed. You broke the silence. The prize is yours. Your soul is the score. Joseph stood frozen. He tried to back away. Couldn't. His hands were glued to the joystick. His feet rooted to the ground. He screamed, but no sound came out. And then his body fell. Limp. Eyes open. Still. The arcade manager found him the next morning. He called an ambulance, but it was too late. Cardiac arrest, they said. Maybe epilepsy, maybe exhaustion. Maybe something else. No one asked why his face was twisted in terror. No one explained why his hands were still gripping the joystick, so tightly they had to be pried off. The game cabinet was removed that afternoon. No one admitted ordering it. In its place, a new machine appeared by evening, glossy black, untouched. No one knew who delivered it. But if you looked closely at the high-score screen, beneath the shimmering new menu, there was one line already etched in faint red letters. Joseph minus 999,999. A week later, a 12-year-old boy named Adi wandered into the arcade with a fistful of tokens. He ignored the racing games and shooters. Something pulled him to the new machine. He read the name out loud. S1, L3, and C3. Cool, he said, dropping in a coin. The screen blinked to life. High score screen. Joseph's name. And in the shadows of the void, behind the flickering orbs, a face appeared for just a moment. Hollow eyes, open mouth, silent scream. Adi jerked back. He looked around. No one else saw it, but the whispers had already begun. One more player, one more prize. And the game began.